The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, is a 2021 horror film directed by Michael Chavez and was written by David McGoldrick. It follows the story of Ed and Lorraine Warren, the paranormal investigators from the other Conjuring movies, as they try to crack a case on whether a young man was possessed by the devil or not. So you guys, here we are, The Conjuring 3. I've had a mixed bag review with some of the other Conjuring movies, and it's led up to this review. I also want to do a ranking of the Conjuring movies, so if you'd like to see that video, let me know down in the comments below. But as you all know, The Conjuring was a film originally directed by James Wan and written by Leigh Whannell, some of my favorite modern horror filmmakers. We have The Conjuring 2, and now we have technically The Conjuring 3, but called The Devil Made Me Do It. There's a lot of spin-off movies too, including The Nun and Annabelle. And going into this movie, I was both excited, optimistic, and nervous. And there's a few reasons why. One of the reasons is I heard a lot of mixed reviews regarding this movie. Some people praising it, some people bashing it. So I was hesitant going in. I didn't want to get my expectations too hyped. And the other reason is Michael Chavez, the director, also directed The Curse of La Llorona, which was my least favorite of the Conjuring movies, to put it lightly. I wasn't a big fan of that movie, and I don't think it's because Chavez is a bad director, but the mix between the script, the pacing, there were so many things wrong with that movie. There were a few redeemable qualities to it, like the priest and La Llorona herself, but on the whole, that movie was a big disappointment. I actually didn't even review it here. And so when I heard that he was going to be taking over for James Wan, who did such a good job with the other two Conjuring movies, I couldn't help but be a little bit nervous. Though, I have to say, I really enjoyed The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and it may be one of my favorite movies in this franchise, because, my gosh, can I just tell you, this was a fun time at the movies. If there's a movie that I would recommend to watch around Halloween time for maybe a party or something, this is definitely up there, because it's just an enjoyable ride. I will say, though, I guess I'll jump into my negatives before my positives, because I have a lot of positives. I have a couple negatives, though, with this movie. One of my biggest negatives is I heard this was about the Devil Made Me Do It case, the very famous paranormal case. You've probably heard of it. And I knew that I wanted to see courtroom stuff. They prefaced this movie as, you know, they're in the court and they're gonna decide whether or not the devil exists. I was really interested to see them tackle that in a movie, and the courtroom stuff isn't a big part of it. Now, is it a bad movie because that's not in it? No. But I was a little let down that there were only like 2 scenes that showed the interior of the court. A little bit upsetting for me, especially because I'm a very dialogue-heavy viewer, so I like to see the debate amongst whether the devil actually made this guy do it, and we didn't really get that. On the flip side, though, we did get a really interesting mystery, almost, of the Warrens going to find this cause of this murder, and I think that really elevated the story in an entertainment sense. My other negative is that I didn't find this one as scary or as dreadful as the other 2 Conjuring movies. Now, with that being said, I think it's more fun in many ways than the other Conjuring movies, especially The Conjuring 2, which I'll get to in a second. But I would have liked more scares. At the very end of this movie, they play the real audio from the actual case that this is based on, and the audio is terrifying, and I wish the movie had more of that tone to it. Whereas this one is more of like a follow the cookie crumbs to get to the end of the rainbow type deal. But with those said, I have a lot of positives for the movie. For one, I thought it looked really good. In terms of a cinematography sense, I thought the lighting was fantastic, and the performances were really good. Of course, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga nail it every time. Those characters, Ed and Lorraine, are at the heart of this entire franchise, and with them back, it really does help. It really helps, and it makes this movie feel like less of a spin-off from The Conjuring and more of like it's just a part of this trilogy, which I assume it is. I don't know if because they didn't add a 3 to the end of it that changes things, but I like to think of it as a Conjuring movie. It is called The Conjuring, so that's come to be expected. All of the side cast too was very believable and entertaining to watch. I went to a film festival about a month ago in St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, and I actually met some of the cast, including Paul Wilson, who's Patrick Wilson's brother, and a woman named Eugenie, who plays the main villain. I don't want to give too much away, but it's funny because when I met her, she's so nice, and in this movie, she's just horrifying. And she didn't have a lot of dialogue in this film. So to present herself as this evil, creepy woman with little words and all of her physicality is really impressive. She was great, and if they did another movie with her, I would be all down for it. So my hat goes off to the casting for this film. It has a lot of throwbacks to many classic horror films that I love, particularly The Shining and The Exorcist, which are top-tier horror movies in my opinion, my favorite movies of all time. And you can really tell that they wanted to make this a classic, a modern classic in a way. And like I said, if you watch this around Halloween time with those other films I mentioned, it would be hard to not enjoy it with that roster of horror movies. I thought a lot of the scares were well done. Perhaps I'm just so used to horror movies at this point that they don't quite scare me as much as they would an average audience viewer. But with that said, they were crafted quite well. There's a few scenes, a morgue scene in particular, and the ending that were really creepy in terms of the setup. I like a lot of the locations, that morgue, the house, even the courtroom. They all have a certain vibe to it that I really jived with, and I think they played well off of one another. And so all of that was great. On top of that, I really enjoyed the music in the movie too. All of the Conjuring movies are known for this very, I don't know what you would call it, this horn, this tone in the background that adds to the atmosphere, and it's again well done in this movie too. I thought by not showing exactly what happens in certain scenes also adds to the tension of the movie, and I was honestly very pleased with the execution overall. Again, I mentioned a few of those negatives, but really the positives and the entertainment quality outweigh those negatives, and I had a really fun time. There aren't too many things to spoil in the movie. I mean, there are some plot details that I think may change your experience going into it, but on the whole, there's no huge plot twist or anything crazy like that. It's a straightforward haunting movie with a possession, with a mystery, and I found that to be very entertaining. I liked when they went to the farm and met the old priest who gave information, and it led to this thing, and it led to this thing. I don't want to say what all those things are, but you can guess it. It kind of forms the trail to create this little story, this little adventure for the Warrens. And to see them back and doing their thing again was awesome. I also really like that Lorraine kind of got front seat more in this movie than Ed, and I really love both of those characters, but the other movies more so focus on Ed and his interaction, and this movie focuses more on Lorraine, so I like that she kind of got the spotlight here. It really did add overall to the balance of the movie quite well. Creepy atmosphere, good acting. I mean, it's a horror movie. The depth of the scares, I would say, is not as pungent as the first two Conjuring movies, and I don't know if there was an overall message that they had in mind. There's something in there about love and about strength and unity when it comes to Ed and Lorraine, which I got. Some of the other ones have a more religious-themed message. I thought this one was going to go more into the church and state type deal. They didn't really touch on it as much as I would have liked. But I can't deny The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It was a fun time at the movies. It was creepy, it was entertaining, and had some good scares and had some creepy moments that I think will really capture the hearts of horror fans. I really liked it, and I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 skulls on the R.I.P. Reviews rating scale. Let me know in the comments, what did you think about The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It? I'd be curious to hear from you, so let me know. Thank you, and remember, for all things Halloween, this is Hauntformer.